My dear soul, right now, you are standing at one of the most powerful moments of the day. Your body is tired, your throat is dry, your heart is quiet, and Allah is very close. These last 5 minutes before breaking your fast are not ordinary minutes, they are sacred. They are moments when the heavens open, when dua rises faster than ever before, and when Allah listens with a mercy that words cannot describe. In the final moments before breaking the fast, something profound happens within the human being and within the unseen world. Hunger has softened the ego, thirst has quieted distractions, and the heart is no longer arguing with the soul. Throughout the day, the body was restrained from what it normally demands, and in that restraint, the heart learned humility. By the time these last minutes arrive, a person is no longer speaking from abundance or comfort, but from need. And it is precisely need that Allah loves to hear. These moments are sacred not because of the clock, but because of the state of the heart. A heart that has endured hunger for the sake of Allah is not the same heart that began the day. It is more present, more honest, more aware of its dependence. When the stomach is empty, the soul becomes louder. Excuses fall away. Pride weakens. The heart no longer negotiates with Allah, it turns to Him sincerely. This is why the supplication of the fasting person before breaking the fast carries a special weight. It rises from a place of sincerity that cannot be forced at other times. In these minutes, the believer stands between patience and relief. The food is there, the water is within reach, yet the fast is still intact. This space between endurance and ease is powerful. It is a moment of obedience that has not yet been rewarded in the physical sense, and that makes it pure. The believer has nothing to gain outwardly by waiting a few more moments, yet they wait because Allah commanded it. That obedience, even in its smallest form, is beloved. The heart at this time is stripped of illusions. During the day we often feel self-sufficient, we feel in control, but hunger exposes how fragile we truly are. A few hours without food reminds us that we are not self-sustaining beings. This realization humbles the heart, and a humbled heart makes the most sincere dua. It no longer asks from a place of entitlement, but from submission. It does not demand, it pleads. It does not complain, it trusts. There is also a deep emotional openness in these moments. Fatigue softens resistance. Tears come easier. Words come slower but truer. The heart is no longer performing spirituality, it is living it. A person may not even know how to phrase their dua properly, but Allah understands what the tongue cannot express. Silence itself becomes a prayer, a sigh becomes worship. Even simply turning the heart toward Allah carries meaning. These moments are also sacred because they gather multiple forms of worship into one point in time. The fasting person has already worshipped through abstention, through patience, through guarding the tongue and limbs. Now just before iftar, dua is added to that worship. It is as if all the effort of the day culminates in these minutes. The heart is ripe, the soul is receptive, the connection is strong. It is a moment when the servant is closest to recognizing their true position before their Lord. Many people rush through these minutes, distracted by preparation or conversation, unaware of what they are giving up. But the one who pauses understands that this time does not repeat itself once the fast is broken. Once the first sip of water is taken, the state changes. Relief enters the body, and with it, a subtle sense of independence returns. The hunger that made the heart fragile disappears, and the window begins to close. That is why these final moments are precious. They exist only briefly, and once gone, they cannot be retrieved. In these minutes, the believer is not asking as someone who has been answered, but as someone who is waiting. And waiting itself is an act of worship. Allah loves to see His servant waiting at His door, hopeful, patient, trusting. The sacredness lies in that waiting, in that quiet, turning inward, in that unspoken belief that Allah sees, hears, and responds. Even if the answer does not come in the way expected, the heart that learned to turn sincerely in these moments has already received something greater. Admitting weakness before Allah is not an act of defeat, it is an act of truth. Human beings spend much of their lives trying to appear strong in front of others, strong in front of circumstances, and sometimes even strong in front of their own hearts. We hide our fears, we minimize our pain, and we convince ourselves that we are managing just fine. But the moment a servant stands before Allah and says, "I have nothing except you," all illusions fall away. What remains is honesty, and honesty is beloved to Allah. True weakness is not a flaw in the eyes of Allah. It is the natural state of the servant. Every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of ease or hardship is sustained by him. Yet the ego resists this reality. It wants control. It wants certainty. It wants to believe that effort alone is enough. When a person admits their weakness, they are not denying their effort. They are recognizing its limits. They are saying, "I tried, but I know that without you, my trying is incomplete." This awareness shifts the heart from self-reliance to divine reliance. When weakness is admitted sincerely, the heart softens. There is no longer a need to impress, justify, or defend. The servant stops explaining their pain and starts placing it where it belongs. This is why the simple words, "Ya Allah, I have nothing except you," carry such depth. They acknowledge loss, confusion, fear, and need without detailing any of them. Allah already knows the details. What He loves is the surrender. Admitting weakness also frees the heart from exhaustion. Carrying the illusion of strength is heavy. Pretending to be okay when the heart is struggling drains the soul. When a person finally admits their need to Allah, the burden shifts. The heart no longer has to hold everything together. It allows itself to be held. This release creates space for tranquility, even if the circumstances remain unchanged. The peace does not come from solutions, it comes from surrender. Many people fear admitting weakness because they associate it with shame. But in the relationship between the servant and Allah, weakness is not shameful, it is necessary. Strength belongs to Allah alone. The servant's honor lies in recognizing that truth. The Quran repeatedly reminds humanity of its dependence, not to humiliate, but to liberate. When a person stops pretending to be self-sufficient, they stop fighting a battle they were never meant to win alone. There is also a deep sincerity that emerges when weakness is acknowledged. Dua changes tone. It is no longer formal or rehearsed. It becomes raw. The heart stops choosing words and starts speaking truth. Sometimes the dua is clear, sometimes it is broken, sometimes it is only tears, but Allah understands all of it. In fact, the dua that comes from weakness is often more beloved than the dua that comes from confidence because it carries humility. Admitting weakness reconnects the servant to their fitrah, the natural state of recognizing Allah as the sustainer. Children ask without shame, they cry without apology. They trust that someone stronger will respond. As adults, we lose that innocence. We learn restraint, pride, and fear of vulnerability. But when we return to Allah in weakness, we return to something pure. We stand as servants, not as negotiators. This admission also changes how one views hardship. Instead of seeing difficulty as a personal failure, the heart begins to see it as an invitation to draw closer, to lean more deeply, to let go of control. Weakness becomes a doorway rather than a dead end. It teaches the servant that Allah's nearness is not reserved for moments of success, but often revealed in moments of need. Ultimately, when a person says, "I have nothing except you," they are not saying they are empty. They are saying they know where fullness comes from. They are placing their trust where it belongs. And in that placement, miracles begin. Not always in the form of sudden change, but in the form of hearts that are no longer carrying what they were never meant to carry alone. Many hearts are weighed down not by sin alone, but by the belief that they must be perfect to be accepted by Allah. People delay turning back, delay making dua, delay seeking closeness because they feel unworthy. They look at their inconsistencies, their mistakes, their missed prayers, their fluctuating faith, and they assume that acceptance is reserved for those who never slip. But Allah did not create human beings to be flawless. He created them to return. And sincerity is the bridge that allows that return to happen. Perfection is an illusion the ego clings to, while sincerity is a truth the heart lives. A person may perform an act of worship flawlessly on the outside, yet their heart may be distant, distracted, or seeking something other than Allah. Another person may struggle, stumble, and fall short, yet their heart is turned fully toward Allah, apologetic, hopeful, and honest. In the sight of Allah, the second heart carries immense weight because it recognizes its need and seeks Him despite its flaws. Sincerity means coming to Allah as you are, not as you wish you were. It means praying even when focus is weak, fasting even when patience is thin, and making dua even when hope feels fragile. It is the willingness to show up again and again without pretending that the struggle is over. Allah does not ask the servant to erase their humanity before approaching Him. He asks them to approach Him with their humanity intact. When a person chases perfection, worship becomes heavy. Every mistake feels like failure. Every lapse feels like proof of rejection. This mindset slowly distances the heart because it ties Allah's mercy to performance. Sincerity, on the other hand, keeps the heart connected. It allows the servant to say, Ya Allah, I tried today and I fell short, but I still came back. That return itself is an act of worship. Allah's mercy is vast precisely because human beings are imperfect. If perfection were required, repentance would have no meaning, patience would have no role, and humility would not exist. The repeated cycle of striving, falling, and returning is not a flaw in the system, it is part of the design. Through this cycle, the servant learns who they are and who Allah is. They learn their weakness and His mercy. Sincerity also protects the heart from despair. A person who believes only perfect deeds are accepted will eventually give up because perfection is unsustainable. But a person who believes that Allah values honest effort will keep going. Even on days when worship feels heavy, they will continue because they know that Allah sees the intention behind the struggle. This knowledge transforms worship from a burden into a relationship. There is a quiet beauty in imperfect worship offered sincerely. A prayer prayed with tears and distraction, but with longing, may be more beloved than a prayer prayed flawlessly, but mechanically. A fast observed with moments of weakness, yet with repentance and restraint, carries light. Allah looks beyond the form and into the heart. And the heart that keeps turning back, despite its shortcomings, is a heart Allah does not abandon. Sincerity also teaches self-compassion without complacency. It does not excuse sin, but it does not weaponize it either. The servant acknowledges mistakes without letting them define their worth. They seek forgiveness without losing hope. This balance keeps the heart alive. It allows growth without crushing the soul under guilt. When sincerity becomes the focus, the servant stops measuring themselves against others and starts measuring their closeness to Allah. Comparison fades, performance anxiety fades. What remains is a quiet desire to please Allah, even if the effort feels small. And Allah, in His generosity, magnifies that small effort beyond what the servant could imagine. In the end, sincerity is not about lowering standards, it is about placing them in the right place. The goal is not flawless action, but a heart that keeps turning, keeps asking, and keeps trusting. That is the heart Allah welcomes, forgives, and elevates, not because it was perfect, but because it was true. Trusting Allah, even when answers are delayed, is one of the most challenging and most transformative aspects of faith. Human beings are naturally inclined to seek certainty. We want results immediately, proofs that our efforts were not wasted, and signs that the one we rely upon is listening. When those signs do not appear, impatience creeps in. Doubts whisper quietly, asking why our prayers have not been answered, why the hardship persists, or why the relief seems delayed. In those moments, trust is tested, not as a concept to be understood, but as a practice to be lived. True trust does not require immediate comfort or visible results. It requires the heart to remain steadfast even when nothing seems to change. Trust begins with surrendering control. Every person carries the illusion that they can shape their own destiny entirely, that effort alone guarantees success, or that hardship reflects failure. But life often demonstrates that effort is not always immediately rewarded, and outcomes are rarely fully in our hands. Trusting Allah in delayed answers means recognizing that His knowledge encompasses every moment of existence, every hidden struggle, and every future decision that will affect our lives. It means believing that even if the timeline differs from our desires, the plan is perfect, and what is best for our heart, soul, and faith will ultimately be granted. When a person trusts Allah, despite delays, they begin to see value in the waiting itself. Waiting is not empty or meaningless. It shapes the character, purifies the intention, and strengthens reliance. A heart that waits is a heart that leans more deeply on Allah, acknowledges its need, and cultivates patience. Patience is not mere endurance. It is an active spiritual quality that transforms suffering into a tool of elevation. Each delayed answer becomes an opportunity to refine sincerity, humility, and reliance, making the eventual outcome even more profound and meaningful. Trust also requires releasing anxiety about the unknown. The human mind often spirals when it does not see immediate answers. It tries to predict outcomes, to manipulate circumstances, and to force results. These behaviors are born from insecurity and a lack of recognition of Allah's wisdom. Trust teaches the heart to step back, to stop demanding, and to allow the divine wisdom to unfold. Even when the heart is anxious, the words, Ya Allahu, I trust you, act as a balm. They are a conscious act of placing hope where it truly belongs, instead of in fleeting circumstances, people, or expectations. Delayed answers are also a reminder of the transient nature of human perspective. A person may pray for something they perceive as necessary, only to later discover that what they sought was not suitable for their growth or protection. Allah, in His mercy, may withhold the answer until the timing is right, or provide an alternative that surpasses the original request. Trust requires humility to accept that human vision is limited, while divine vision is infinite. The delay is not a denial, it is an expression of wisdom, and recognizing this allows the heart to remain patient without despair. Another aspect of trust is consistency in worship despite uncertainty. A person who trusts Allah continues to pray, fast, give charity, and make dua even when they do not feel immediate reward. These actions are not dependent on outcomes, they are manifestations of faith and reliance. Each act of worship becomes a reinforcement of trust itself, teaching the heart to submit joyfully to the unseen. Over time, this builds resilience, inner peace, and a deep connection with the Creator that is independent of worldly results. Trusting Allah also transforms the meaning of success and fulfillment. The heart begins to measure life not by external markers alone, but by spiritual closeness, inner peace, and the consistency of turning toward Allah. Delayed answers teach the servant that timing matters as much as the answer itself. Sometimes the wisdom of delay is revealed immediately. Other times it is seen years later. In either case, the heart that trusted along the way is already rewarded with growth, patience, and understanding. Trust is a surrender that does not negate effort. It does not mean passivity or resignation. Rather, it is the recognition that effort is meaningful only when coupled with reliance on Allah. A person continues to act, plan, and strive, but they do so without desperation or despair. They remain hopeful, patient, and consistent. The heart that says, Ya Allah, I trust you, even when the dua is delayed, positions itself in a state of peace, open to miracles, and ready to receive divine wisdom. whether in the form it expects or in a form far greater than imagined. As human beings, we often approach dua with a sense of formality or routine, asking for what is convenient, obvious, or socially acceptable. Yet the moments before breaking a fast in Ramadan provide a rare opportunity to speak from the depths of the heart, to express what is truly heavy and pressing. These minutes are unlike any other time of the day because the soul is tender, the ego is subdued, and the connection with Allah feels immediate. It is a time when the heart can speak its truth without disguise, when the words uttered are not just sounds, but reflections of real longing, need, and trust. To ask for what is heavy on the heart is to honor both one's vulnerability and the mercy of the one who hears. The heaviness in a person's heart is often hidden even from themselves. Worries, regrets, fears, unspoken desires, and unprocessed pain accumulate quietly over time, shaping the emotional and spiritual state of a person. The act of fasting softens this accumulation, creating space for reflection and clarity. In these final moments before iftar, the heart can finally name its burdens, acknowledging them fully and turning them over to Allah. Asking for what is truly heavy is not about seeking material gain or transient relief. It is about seeking guidance, healing, and closeness. It is the acknowledgement that the weight the heart carries cannot be lifted alone, and that Allah's help is both necessary and sufficient. Making duha for what truly matters requires honesty. Many people fall into the trap of asking for what sounds good or what seems impressive. They may ask for wealth, status, or recognition, because these are tangible and visible, but the real dua comes from a heart that seeks what is essential for its growth and peace. This is why fasting teaches patience and perspective. Hunger diminishes the illusion of abundance and refocuses attention on what is necessary, the inner state of the soul, the sincerity of worship, and the well-being of one's character. The heaviness in the heart may include the need for forgiveness, the restoration of broken relationships, the courage to face a difficult truth, or the strength to maintain integrity in trials. These are the du'as that resonate with Allah's mercy and wisdom because they reflect genuine need. Another aspect of asking for what weighs heaviest is the recognition of dependency. It is easy to pray for things that feel optional or convenient, but the dua of need is an acknowledgement that one cannot navigate life alone. The heart says, without pretense, I need you, Ya Allah. There is power in vulnerability, in admitting that human effort is limited and that divine assistance is essential. When a person prays with this humility, they align their intention with the purpose of fasting, to strengthen the heart, to cultivate sincerity, and to draw closer to the Creator. The moments before breaking the fast are also potent because they gather the day's worship into a single point of heightened spiritual receptivity. The hunger endured, the thirst resisted, the avoidance of forbidden speech and behavior, all of these acts accumulate, giving dua added weight. To use this moment wisely, one must prioritize the matters of the heart that are truly pressing. It is not the quantity of words, but the depth of intention and the honesty of expression that matters. A short, heartfelt dua for inner healing may carry more weight than long supplications focused on superficial or worldly desires. Furthermore, asking for what is heavy on the heart requires courage. Sometimes the dua will touch sensitive or painful areas, regret, guilt, fear, or longing that the person has avoided. Facing these emotions requires bravery because it demands honesty with oneself and with Allah. But the act of naming these burdens is liberating. It transforms hidden weight into acknowledged need, and in that acknowledgement there is space for divine mercy to enter. The heart begins to feel lighter, even before the outcome is visible. In these moments, the servant learns that dua is not only about changing circumstances, but about transforming the heart. Asking for what truly matters reconnects the person with the ultimate source of guidance and support. It teaches reliance, humility, and patience, and it cultivates a sensitivity to the needs that are eternal rather than fleeting. The heaviness that is placed before Allah becomes a catalyst for spiritual clarity, inner peace, and a deepened relationship with the Creator. It is in this sincerity, in this honesty of the heart, that the power of fasting, the mercy of Allah, and the beauty of spiritual intimacy converge to produce a moment that is both sacred and transformative. The concept of miracles often draws our minds to extraordinary events, unexpected solutions, sudden reversals, or blessings that seem to defy human understanding. Yet the greatest miracles are not always external. They often occur within the heart, quietly and invisibly, transforming the person in ways that the world cannot measure. The heart that is attuned to Allah, especially during Ramadan, and particularly in the moments before breaking the fast, experiences a form of divine response that surpasses material or visible outcomes. This transformation is subtle but profound, shaping character, strengthening faith, and opening doors of spiritual perception that were previously closed. A heart that engages sincerely with Allah in dua, particularly when it asks for what is heavy and necessary, begins to experience a shift in perspective. The miracle lies in the inner peace that arises even when circumstances remain difficult. It is the calm in the soul when storms rage externally, the patience that persists even when relief is delayed, and the unwavering hope that flourishes even when expectations are unmet. These shifts are not instant like a flash of light, but they are gradual and cumulative, shaping the individual from within. The fasting person who has restrained hunger and thirst knows firsthand the strength that emerges from discipline and surrender. This strength becomes a form of inner miracle, a resilience that cannot be quantified, but that transforms daily life profoundly. Another aspect of this inner miracle is clarity of heart and mind. Fasting softens the ego, and sincere dua opens the heart to guidance that may have been previously unnoticed. The person begins to perceive life differently, prioritizing what is eternal over what is transient, seeking the proximity of Allah over fleeting comforts, and valuing sincerity and integrity over approval or recognition from others. This reorientation is itself a miracle. The heart that once wandered aimlessly now finds direction. The soul that once felt heavy now feels buoyed by hope. And the mind that once doubted now rests in trust. Such inner transformations often produce external effects over time, but the miracle begins internally, in the unobserved chambers of the heart. The process of transformation also fosters emotional resilience. Challenges, disappointments, and setbacks are inevitable in life. Yet the heart that has been spiritually nurtured through fasting and dua develops the ability to navigate adversity with patience and composure. The miracle is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of a strengthened heart that can endure it without despair. In this way, hardship itself becomes a medium through which the soul is refined, and what once caused anxiety now becomes an opportunity for growth. The heart begins to understand that miracles are not always about changing circumstances, but about changing the self, aligning it more closely with divine wisdom, perspective, and purpose. Gratitude emerges as another profound sign of these inner miracles. The heart that is transformed begins to notice blessings that were previously overlooked.